poetry was the only place that I liked myself in my brain. Literally. Meaning, I was going through so much pain, so much sadness, so much hopelessness. I would write it down and things would happen and words would come together.
A shared passion to raise awareness about the importance of caring for our mental health brought poet Yashi Brown and I together many years ago. But it wasn't until later that I learned more about her childhood and the well-known family she grew up in. On this episode of Inner Space, Yashi joins me in Los Angeles to talk about her own mental health journey and how writing poetry helps her care for her emotional well-being. So I'm here in Los Angeles today, and I'm so thrilled to be sitting down for a conversation with my dear friend Yashi Brown, who is a poet and a mental health advocate, among many other things.
Speaker, I know.
Yes, a speaker, that's right. Winner of the Voice Award.
Yes.
All I knew was that you were doing work in the mental health space.
Yeah.
And that we had some intersections. And we somehow got on the subject of music. And you said to me...
I remember. I'll remind you how.
You said to me... Oh, yes, you remind me. So, but you said, well, music has always been really important in my life and my family. And I said, well, Yashi, why is that? I didn't know that. Why is that? And you then told me the family that you grew up in. And I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that I had no idea that that was what had been part of your experience, your journey. So what did you tell me that day when I said that? Really?
So I told you, my musical family, Jackson, and that...
One of the most well-known musical families of my generation, our generation, right?
Yeah. And it was really interesting because the way music came up is we had taken a picture and it was on my social media. And you got an email from James Brown's daughter.
Yes.
And their foundation, because she was looking to, they were doing some sort of documentary or show, and I was somebody that they were exploring, and they went on my social media and they contacted you.
Yes.
And then I was like, somebody contacted you for me. And so it was James Brown, my uncle's idol, whose daughter contacted me. It was just wild.
It was so wild.
None of it like directly connected to what you and I talk about every day, which has nothing, not really much to do with entertainment at all.
No,
you know?
only how people who are in the industry can use their platform, right?
For sure.
Your uncle, Michael Jackson, same age as I am, he would have been the same age now, was a huge influence in my life, as he was for millions of people.
Really?
But because we were the same age, I literally was growing up with him, going through my own losses and challenges, and his death, like I think for many, many fans, was such a personal loss for me. And then we talked about that. And that led me to ask you about what was that like growing up in that sort of bubble, with also trying to navigate mental health challenges. So can you talk about that?
Well, I guess you can say we're normal folk, which is what people don't grasp. So when you go in and you talk and you speak, you're speaking just from the same space as anybody else. But individuals don't see the person they're talking to. They see this entity, or they see this, what they see on TV, or what they want to see, they want to see, and then what they read, which is completely the opposite of what they read. So so you kind of feel out of place, because you're reminded of something that is an aspect, but does not define you at all. And if there is something that is the last thing that I don't want to say it to down it, but celebrity and all of that is like, it is not something that has anything to do with anything that's important.
That's the real you.
That's real to me. Anything that I really give any credence to. I understand one thing about it is that you can use it as an avenue to bring good into the world. You can use it as a way to get a message out, as a way to benefit humanity. That's what it can. That's the
power.
Beauty of it.
Yeah.
And that is where I like to sit with it. And then the rest of it, whatever. But I think
part of that whatever, because you've been very open in your poetry and in your work about your own mental health journey.
Yeah.
And I would imagine just what you just said.
Yeah.
That coming from a family that everyone thought they knew everything about this family and the people in it and who they were and all that, and knew nothing.
Right.
That probably interfered with or complicated your own finding your way to what worked for you. Is that a fair statement?
Well, yeah, absolutely. You kind of have to remind people, hello, right now, here, it's Yashi.
Right.
It's so you don't remind them, but as you're speaking and as they get to know you, that it starts to like, this person, let's talk, and are you conversating with me?
Right. Learning about
is this, is this organically in the same way that I'm conversating with you, trying to learn about who you are.
Yes.
So that is very important to me. I'm very passionate about being present with both individuals, and
on
having a real interaction, real connecting with somebody on a real level. And so, because I'm blessed also with having a last name Brown, I really do get to skate through and go, I was able to, definitely work that in a great way. I was able to really start relationships much easier, probably, and it never comes up. You've been around me. It won't come up unless somebody else brings it up.
Right.
Or in dealing with the challenges of that growing up, and then also dealing with depression, which I didn't understand why I had it. I was just really trying to understand who I was, and then it was just so paramount for me to keep it a secret. And so when I started to have...
How old are we talking? When you first...
So when I started to have the symptoms, the bipolar symptoms, the depression started at 19. Okay. And then when it started to rage into more manic behaviors and things that were very unique to my family, and then eventually that crescendoed into some pretty alarming events. It was completely, important and my primary concern that nobody found out. And that I was secretive.
And that, it's every time, obviously I've heard this story from you before because we are good friends. And every time I hear it, it's painful to hear, because here you were going through your own pain, but aware of the need to try to keep it under the radar so that it wouldn't affect your family, which isn't that exactly what we are trying in our shared passion to change.
Absolutely.
Because if that had been cancer or any other physical challenge, you wouldn't have had to do that.
No, I wouldn't have. And maybe, there are moments in those particular, illnesses where there were stigma type situations, but still, when it comes to physical illness, we can see it.
Yep.
There's still that aspect, whereas with mental health, we're starting to talk about it more, but still the awareness of how you can't always see it. And so what we can't see doesn't exist, right?
Right.
Or
people can, it's almost like, I never thought of this before. It's almost like the celebrity thing, right?
Yeah.
You can project, you see a celebrity, you can project whatever you imagine that person is based on you've seen them on the screen or on the stage.
Yeah.
In a way, whatever is in your head about what, fill in the blank, bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, you can project that onto somebody without even knowing if that is what their experience is, right?
Yeah, so you start to hear terms like, I think he's bipolar, look at what he's doing.
Right.
Or, oh my God, she has to be, because look at this. And it's not said in a way of, wow, that person
is hurting.
They might have a serious condition.
Right.
Somebody needs to talk, or maybe we can reach out or contact an organization that can look into it.
Right.
No, it's said as a place of looking down.
Right.
And a place to be ashamed of.
Right, which would not happen if it was something, a physical. Yeah. If you saw somebody nowadays and you could tell because maybe they had no hair, and so you're like, oh, they have cancer. I wonder how I
Yeah.
can be of help to them, or I wonder.
Absolutely.
It's we're still in that
Yeah.
space where people project what they think, and even in our media, you
Yeah.
still hear on the news
Yeah.
things like, oh, that person is so schizophrenic, and they're not referring to
No.
something that is a
No.
real suffering for someone
Yeah.
who is in fact dealing with schizophrenia.
Absolutely.
So talk about the poetry and the writing and when and how, because that has become such a gift that you have given to the
Thank
community.
you. I know, it's so funny because when I get asked to speak, it's like, well, we definitely, you're going to do a poem, it's outlined. I'm like, you don't have to ask me to do a poem. That's the fun part. But I never thought that was going to happen. I always thought it was going to be more about my journey and all of that, because poetry, and I always say this, I heard it said at a NAMI convention I was at, and
National
I
Alliance for
resonated.
the Mentally
Yeah,
Ill, for the
National
people who
Alliance
don't
for Mentally
know,
Ill,
right?
And I so resonated with it, and I stole it, and I say it all the time now, but I always say where I got it from. Poetry was the only place that I liked myself in my brain. Literally. Meaning, I was going through so much pain, so much sadness, so much hopelessness. I would write it down, and things would happen, and words would come together that I never would have thought. And it was coming from me, is what at that time I was thinking. Now I know it's coming from something much more than myself. But in that moment, it was like the fact that I was able to put that together. And then I would show it to like a friend or whatever, and they would be like, wow, this is something incredible. And I started to find a sense of self-worth and self-esteem.
You are such a lovely, dear, sweet, generous-hearted person. I say that because of our relationship and how it's grown over the years.
Yeah.
And when you do one of your poems that is coming from maybe a more, I don't quite know how to capture it, it's a different power that comes out when you do the spoken word from your own work. It is quite something to behold. I remember the first time I saw, I'm trying to remember if it was Huffington Post, maybe?
Yes, it was Huffington Post.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was like, that is my friend Yashi.
I know, it's so funny because my grandmother came to one benefit I did. She looked at my mom, she's like, I didn't know Yashi could do that. And it was the funniest
powerful.
thing because she just didn't see that side of me, but there's something extreme. And I don't know, maybe this is bias. I like to call it a bipolar thing. But I've never met anyone that doesn't have this.
Wow.
And there's just an area of intensity that it's really hard to describe. So you have to physically do it. You have to do it.
So
because you can't express this intensity any other way.
That's a really important statement that you and I together have talked about before, that we need to bring out into the open, that people they often feel this shame, this guilt about, again, fill in the blank. I deal with anxiety, or I deal with bipolar, but many of the human conditions that we all experience, we're all in that continuum somewhere, have this potential that unleashes. I was interviewing another dear friend of mine for the show, and she was talking about her particular way that she takes on things, organizes things, and you can hear that some of it may be anxiety based, and she's very first to say that, but how incredibly helpful it is to her.
Yeah.
And what you just talked about is that special, as you said, sort of this power that comes from some place that you believe is clearly connected to this manifestation in some way of bipolar.
Absolutely.
Right? Did I capture that fairly?
Yeah, you did. I know. We have to dance around this stuff sometimes, right?
It is
so true, though.
It is there.
No, it's in how we express something. I always like to say, now that I'm on the other side and have found the treatment, which is a combination of holistic, I'm really into crystal therapy, and I take medication with the doctor.
And you take care of yourself. You're
Yeah,
very,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know this about you. You're very focused on what is important for you, and to take care of you, meaning rest and breaks and not overtaxing. You're really good about that.
Well, because I know it's very important to know yourself and to know your boundaries, because nobody's going to know this but you. No one's going to know it better than you. And that's the challenge with individuals with lived experience, is really tuning into themselves. But in order to do that, you have to also admit there's something significant going awry that you need to tune into.
And how did you learn how to take care of you? Because I think a lot of people who are going to be listening are going to resonate, and maybe they haven't figured out how to take care of themselves. How did you learn how to do that?
It became just so unbearably painful, and the hopelessness, and there wasn't a choice. It was like, either I'm going to end this right now myself, I got to figure another way out. And there was a lot of doctors prior to me saying that. There were already treatments and medications I had been on prior to saying that to myself. So it was like I went back to that space when I was a child. My mom talked to me about prayer, and I literally just kind of just was like, this is it. I need help. And I talked to our universe and God, and you know, not really knowing what was going to happen. But I have to say, in those moments when I was doing that, I started to actually have a physical reaction. It's like a miracle. I always tell people there was something physically happening, because you know, when you're going through that pain and that hopelessness, it's like there's a knife going through your heart. You feel it all over your whole body. It's physical, not just mental emotion. It's physical. So it was like I was feeling an ease. There was like a peace coming through in those moments. And, you know, from there, I was able to get on the right track. Literally, I had a burning desire to not feel powerless.
Do you think,
because
Yashi,
I was feeling powerless. So that burning desire to not feel powerless overrode my wanting to commit suicide.
Do you think that experience, that sort of process that happened, did it give you then confidence to trust you about what was good for you, what you needed to do to take care of you? Did you start listening in a different way to you?
I recognized what I did differently, and I stuck with it. Spirituality became a cornerstone. Prayer, and understanding how to navigate that space within us, that invisible space. Whether you believe in a higher creator or not, whatever that space is that helps us feel connected to this universe. So is that, if that's being with your kids, if that's writing, if that's, you know, working with animals, whatever that space is that helps you feel connected to this universe, do that as much as possible and stay in that space. Because that's when I started to remember about my poetry. And then I was starting to realize that when I would go into, for me, it was also prayer. And so those spaces that helped me tap into something much more than this physical presence is what allowed me to really be conscious of my emotions, of what I was going through. And you have to take ownership of that. I didn't expect anybody to take care of that. And I don't expect someone to know how to do it better than me. And that's where folks, I mean, I don't know, if you can't grasp that part, that you have to own it. You have to do it. I had to get over the condition, the title of the condition. You know, I had to get over the bipolar part, the label. Because when I was given the label, first I was given, you know, I was first diagnosed with schizoaffective, very similar, you know, when you're in a manic state, very similar symptoms.
Right.
And so there was even a confusion on the labels.
Of course.
But to know that there was something that could identify a feeling in myself that I didn't know how to express, and I felt completely isolated and alone, and I didn't know what it was like an opening. It was a breakthrough. So where that might hold a lot of people back, yeah, I was embarrassed in that moment, but I also felt like I'm not alone. There's other people out there, so that means there's a treatment. And that means there's somebody feeling good. I just needed to find the individuals that had my symptoms, which weren't the like hypomanias, you know, which were a little more intense.
And you had to find, with the help of people you trusted. I mean, it's like, it sounds like one part was trusting yourself.
Yeah.
One part was recognizing who you could trust, even if they didn't have the absolute answer.
Yeah.
They were somebody you could work with.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this lots of times. It sounds like which is partly why your voice is so powerful. There isn't one size that fits all. There isn't like one magic thing out there that everyone can do. I mean, you said it, you know, find what works for you in terms of connecting to the greater universe. Get outside of yourself.
Right.
And find those paths. But it sounds like it wasn't a journey alone. And it's not something that once you found it, you were like, done. It's an ongoing.
Oh, no,
right?
It's an ongoing thing. No. It's ongoing. And that is the part with these challenges that can make one give up and be like, I can't continue this. But if we look at it like going to the gym, trying to look at it in that way, like you gotta keep your mind. That's why mental health is important. We're taking care of all these other things. What are we doing daily
to take
care of our mind and our emotions?
How do you think we're doing as a society right now on the mental health spectrum, the culture change that we are both after?
Yeah.
How do you think we're doing as a society right now?
We got a ways to go.
We got a ways to go, don't we?
We got a ways to go.
Yeah.
But what I could say is that fact the conversation has jumped. The conversation...
Exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very exciting. And I would say within the last, exponentially, and within the last year and a half. What do you think?
I agree.
Exponentially.
Yes.
So
we're all like rowing together.
Yeah. So that's the positive. It's understanding the importance of how you need to daily take care of it, and then check in and talk to someone you can trust, a psychologist, faith leader, or
friend
or an aunt, whatever, whoever you can purge. That's part of our upkeep, getting that stuff out.
And sometimes medication can be a part of it.
Oh yeah.
But I think you and I both talk about this too. No matter how great the medication is, it can't be the only. There's no silver bullet. You take this pill and you're done.
Yeah,
right, with whatever.
You're existing on meds at that point. You're not really living.
Yes.
So got to do things that put the the L back in your life.
Absolutely.
I don't know what that is, but
well, I want to thank you for coming to share. I would like you to come back and talk again, because Inner Space is going to continue to have conversations about what we all can do to take care of our own inner space, take care of the inner space of the people we love in our communities. Yeah. You are a tremendous advocate. Your voice is incredibly important. Your poetry is powerful. People should check it out. I love it. And again, what I love about it is it's so clear what comes out is channeling some part of the Yashi sort of being. It is very, very cool to behold. And so thank you for all that you do in the world, and thank you for being a partner and for being my friend.
Aw, thanks for being my friend, Barb.
And thank you to Yashi for always being so open with me. Check out DCP Entertainment for more on inner space, and be on the lookout for more conversations about mental health.